The lights in the Galactic Council station never fully turned off. Even during the night cycle, a soft blue glow filled the hallways. This was when Hyun liked the station best. The quiet gave her time to think. Hyun was small for a human. She had short black hair that she kept neatly combed behind her ears. Her face was plain and forgettable. She wore the simple gray uniform of the station's archive staff with no pins or badges. Nothing about her made people look twice. And that was exactly how she wanted it. The station was huge. 10,000 beings from 50 different planets lived and worked here. The station floated in space at the center point between the major galactic powers. It was where species came to talk, trade, and make rules for everyone to follow. Humans were new here. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 20 years ago. Most aliens still saw humans as backward and primitive. Some, like the Zephyr, saw humans as a threat. Hyun checked her watch. It was 3 a.m. station time. Most beings would be sleeping now. She walked with quick, light steps through the empty hallway toward the main library. "Good evening, Keeper," she said to the library AI as she entered. "Good evening, Archivist Hyun," the AI replied. Its voice came from speakers in the ceiling. "You are working late again." "I have a lot to do," Hyun said. "Please open Section K for me." "Section K is restricted, Archivist Hyun. You will need special permission." Hyun plugged a small device into the wall panel. The screen flickered for a moment. "Permission granted," the AI said. "Section K is open." Hyun smiled. The device in her hand had done its job perfectly. She had made it herself, using knowledge from her time at Earth's top technology school. No one on the station knew she had been the youngest person ever to graduate from that school. No one had bothered to really read her file. Section K held the most sensitive data on the station. Here, powerful aliens kept secrets they didn't want others to know. Hyun sat at a terminal and began to work. Her fingers moved quickly over the keys. She had been taught to type by her grandfather, who believed old skills should not be forgotten. Most people now just spoke to their computers. As she worked, she thought about the day's events. The Zephyr ambassador, High Commander Vrex, had given a speech about peace and cooperation. But Hyun had seen the way his 4 eyes had moved when he talked about Earth. There was hate there, and fear. The Zephyr were the oldest and most powerful species in the Council. They had been among the stars for 10,000 years. They looked like tall, thin humans, but with gray skin, 4 arms, and 4 eyes. They spoke in low, smooth voices that made other beings trust them. Hyun did not trust them. A file caught her eye. It was locked with high-level security, but that didn't stop her. After a few minutes of work, it opened. What she saw made her breath catch. "Ship movements," she whispered. The Zephyr were moving warships close to Earth space. Many warships. She copied the file to her device. Then she carefully removed all signs that she had been in the system. She was about to leave when she heard voices. Quickly, she hid behind a tall shelf of data cubes. "The humans remain a problem," a voice said. Hyun knew that voice. It was High Commander Vrex. "They learn too quickly," another Zephyr said. "In a few hundred years, they could challenge us." "We won't give them a few hundred years," Vrex said. "The Council votes tomorrow on the Protection Treaty. Once it passes, we can place our ships in Earth orbit. For their protection, of course." The other Zephyr made a sound like laughter. "And if there are accidents?" "Humans are known to be careless," Vrex said. "Now, show me the latest reports." Hyun stayed very still as the 2 Zephyr worked at a terminal. Her heart beat fast, but her face showed nothing. She had learned long ago how to hide her feelings. After 30 minutes, the Zephyr left. Hyun waited 5 more minutes, then slipped out of Section K. She walked calmly back to her small room in the human section of the station. Her room was simple. A bed, a desk, a chair. On the desk was a picture of her family back on Earth. Her parents had wanted her to be a doctor or lawyer. They didn't know what she really did. No one did, except her commander back on Earth. Hyun sat at her desk and connected her device to a secure channel. She sent the stolen files along with a message. Zephyr planning something big. Treaty vote tomorrow. Need more time. Then she deleted the message and lay on her bed thinking. Tomorrow, Ambassador Taiwan would speak for Earth at the council meeting. He was tall and handsome with a powerful voice. Everyone noticed him when he walked into a room. The Zephyr watched him closely. No one watched Hyun. Commander Junho would be there too. He was Earth's military expert, always talking about Earth's growing fleet and new weapons. The Zephyr watched him even more closely. No one watched the quiet woman who worked in the archives. Hyun smiled in the dark. That was their mistake. Morning came too soon. Hyun got up, showered, and put on her plain gray uniform. She ate a simple breakfast in the common area. Around her, humans and aliens talked loudly about the big vote. The Zephyr just want to help us, one young human said. We don't need their help, another argued. Hyun said nothing. She just listened and remembered. That was her job. Listen, watch, remember, and when needed, act. She made her way to the great council chamber. As an archivist, she had a small seat, in the back where she could record the meeting. No one looked at her as she sat down. The chamber was huge and round. In the center was the speaking floor. Around it rose rows of seats for the different species. The Zephyr sat in the first row, as was their right as founding members. Humans, being new, sat in the last row. Ambassador Taiwan and Commander Junho entered with their heads high. They nodded to other species as they took their seats. Commander Junho's uniform was covered in medals. Ambassador Taiwan wore Earth's best diplomatic robes. High Commander Vrex watched them with all four eyes. He didn't notice Hyun, sitting quietly in her corner with her datapad. The head of council, an ancient being from a water world, called the meeting to order. Today we vote on the protection treaty, the head said. This treaty would allow Zephyr ships to patrol the space around newer council members to protect them from outer threats. Ambassador Taiwan stood up. Earth does not need protection, he said in his strong voice. We have our own ships. High Commander Vrex stood as well. His forearms moved in the graceful pattern that meant respect, but his eyes showed something else. We only wish to help, he said smoothly. There are dangers in space that your young species cannot imagine. As they argued, Hyun worked quickly, on her datapad. No one noticed that she wasn't recording the meeting. Instead, she was sending a message that would change everything. The most dangerous human was not the one giving speeches or wearing medals. It was the one no one bothered to watch. Security Chief Moktal watched the council meeting from his control room. Unlike most Saurians who had green scales, his were a deep blue-black that showed his age and rank. He had been the station's head of security for 15 years. In that time, he had learned to spot trouble before it started. Today, trouble was in the air. The vote on the protection treaty had been delayed. Ambassador Taiwan had received an urgent message during his speech and had asked for time to consult with Earth. The council head had agreed to a one-day delay. Moktal had seen the anger in High Commander Vrex's four eyes. The Zephyr didn't like delays. Show me the message that went to the human ambassador, Moktal said to his assistant. I cannot, sir, the young Saurian replied. It was sent through a secure channel we cannot access. Moktal's eyes narrowed. That should not be possible. All communications go through our systems. This one didn't, sir. Interesting. Moktal pulled up the station's activity logs. Someone had breached security, but had done it so cleanly that only his trained eye could spot the signs. A ghost in the system. He began to check the records of all humans on the station. Most were easy to understand. Ambassador Taiwan was a career diplomat with a perfect record. Commander Junho had been a war hero before joining the diplomatic corps. The other humans were scientists, traders, or support staff. Then he came to Hyun's file. At first glance, nothing stood out. Born on Earth, educated at a technical school, worked as an archivist for 5 years. No warnings or notes in her file. But something about it made Moktal pause. He went deeper. The technical school was not just any school. It was Earth's top institute for advanced computing. And Hyun had not just attended, she had finished first in her class. at age 19. Why would such a person be working as a simple archivist? Mokhtal muttered. He pulled up the station's access logs. Hyun had used her archival clearance to access many different systems, nothing unusual for her job. But the pattern of her access was interesting. Late-night entries to databanks that had nothing to do with archives, brief connections to secure networks. If he hadn't been looking for it, he would never have noticed. I need to have a talk with this human, Mokhtal decided. Hyun sat in the library, pretending to organize data cubes. Her mind was racing. Her message to Earth had worked. The treaty vote was delayed, but only for a day. She needed more time. The security alert on her pad beeped softly. Someone was looking at her file. She checked who it was and frowned. Security, Chief Mokhtal. That was not good. The Saurian was known for his sharp mind and attention to detail. If anyone could discover what she was doing, it would be him. Her pad beeped again. A message from Suna, the Alo diplomat she had helped during the power outage last week. The message asked Hyun to meet her for lunch. Hyun smiled. The friendship with Suna had been unexpected. The Ilo were an old and respected species known for their wisdom and fairness and their influence in the council. Hyun sent a quick reply saying yes, then went back to her work. She needed to find proof of the Zephnar's real plans. The data she had sent to Earth had delayed the vote, but it wasn't enough to stop the treaty completely. As she worked, she noticed a tall figure entering the library, Security Chief Mokhtal. He spoke briefly to the AI, then walked straight toward her. His face gave nothing away. Hyun kept her own face calm. Inside, her heart raced. Archivist Hyun, Mokhtal said. Might I have a word with you? Of course, Chief. Mokhtal, she replied, keeping her voice steady. They walked to a quiet corner of the library. Mokhtal's black eyes studied her face. You have been on this station for 2 years, correct? He asked. Yes, sir. And you find your work satisfying? It is important to keep good records, Hyun said. Indeed. Mokhtal seemed to be choosing his words carefully. I notice you often work during the night cycle. I find it peaceful. And you access many different systems. There it was. He had been watching her. Hyun knew she had to be careful. One wrong word could end her mission. My job requires me to update many different archives, she said, including Section K, last night? Hyun's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't let it show. I don't know what you mean, sir. Section K is restricted. Mokhtal leaned closer. You are not what you seem, Archivist Hyun. I don't yet know what you are, but I will find out. Before Hyun could reply, an alarm blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed on the walls. Security breach in Dock 7, a voice announced. All security personnel report. Mokhtal gave Hyun one last hard look, then hurried away. Hyun let out a slow breath. The alarm had come at just the right time, because she had set it off herself, using a program on her pad that she had installed months ago. Hyun met Suna in the station's garden area. The Alo diplomat looked worried. Her skin, usually a bright silver, seemed dull today. Thank you for coming, Suna said. Her voice was musical, like all Alo. I needed to speak with someone I could trust. What's wrong? Hyun asked. Suna looked around to make sure no one was listening. I found something strange in the treaty document, a hidden clause that only appeared when I used an old ILO code to check it. Now Hyun was truly interested. What did it say? It gives the Zephnar the right to establish bases on any protected planet, not just in orbit but on the ground. This was worse than Hyun had feared. The Zephnar wouldn't just control Earth's space. They would put their soldiers on Earth itself. Have you told anyone else? Hyun asked. No, I don't know who to trust. The Zephnar have friends everywhere. You need to tell the council, Hyun said. With what proof? The clause vanishes when others look at the document. They will say I imagined it. Suna's silver eyes were sad. They will say I am helping humans. Because we are friends, Hyun thought quickly. Can you send me the document? I might be able to help. I already did. Check your personal account, Hyun was surprised. Why would you trust me? Suna smiled. Because you helped me during the power failure when no one else did. You didn't want praise or rewards. You just helped because it was right. Hyun felt a pang of guilt. Her helping Suna had been part of her mission, a way to gain an ally. But now she genuinely liked the Elo. I'll do what I can, Hyun promised. As they parted, Hyun saw Security Chief Moktal watching from across the garden. He had returned from the false alarm she had created, and he was still watching her. She had to move faster now. That night, Hyun sat in her room and examined the treaty document Suna had sent. It was clever work. The hidden clause was there, but hidden behind layers of code. Only someone with both high technical skill and knowledge of ancient Ilo language could find it. Luckily, Hyun had studied both. She created a program that would reveal the hidden clause to everyone. Then she prepared to send it to every member of the council. A soft knock on her door made her freeze. She quickly hid her pad under her pillow. "Who is it?" she called. "Security Chief Moktal," came the reply. "We need to talk, Archivist Hyun. It's about the safety of this station, and possibly the safety of Earth." Hyun took a deep breath and opened her door. Security Chief Moktal stood there, his tall form filling the doorway. His black scales gleamed under the hallway lights. "May I come in?" he asked. Hyun stepped aside. There was no point in refusing. If Moktal wanted to arrest her, he would have brought guards. The Saurian looked around her simple room. His eyes lingered on the family photo on her desk. "Your quarters are very plain," he said. "I don't need much," Hyun replied. Moktal nodded. "That fits the pattern." "What pattern?" "The pattern of someone who doesn't want to be noticed." He turned to face her. "Someone who moves through this station like a ghost. Someone who can enter secure systems without leaving tracks." Hyun said nothing. "I could arrest you right now," Moktal continued, "but I won't, because I think we might be on the same side." That surprised her. "What do you mean?" Moktal touched a device on his wrist. A small field activated around them. "Now we can speak freely. This blocks all listening devices." "You think we're being watched?" Hyun asked. "I know we are. The Zefnar have eyes and ears everywhere." Moktal's voice was low and serious. "For 2 years I have been tracking strange patterns in the council. Votes that changed unexpectedly. Data that disappeared, and each time the Zefnar benefited. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the first person I've found who might have proof," Hyun thought quickly. She could deny everything, or she could trust this alien who seemed to have the same suspicions she did. "I might," she admitted. "What would you do with such proof?" "Take it to the council head, force a full investigation of the Zefnar." "And you think the council would act against the most powerful species in the galaxy?" "If the proof is strong enough, yes." Hyun made her decision. She pulled her pad from under her pillow and showed him the document Suna had given her. "Look at this," she said. "A hidden clause in the protection treaty. It would allow the Zefnar to put military bases on any protected planet." Moktal studied the document, his eyes widening. "This is concerning. But I need more concrete proof of their intentions." "I've been gathering it," Hyun said. "Ship movements, communications, plans." "Show me." Hyun opened a hidden folder on her pad. "The Zefnar aren't just planning to control Earth, they want to control all newer council members. They've been slowly placing their people in key positions throughout the galaxy." Moktal looked through the files. "This is worse than I thought. But how did you get all this information? Even I couldn't access some of these systems." Hyun allowed herself a small smile. "No one looks twice at an archivist. I go where I need to go, and no one remembers seeing me there." A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Not a security alarm this time. An emergency alert. "Warning," the station AI announced. "Unauthorized weapons detected in the human section. All security personnel report. Council meeting canceled until further notice." Moktal and Hyun looked at each other. "The Zefnar are making their move," he said. They must know we're on to them. Hyun quickly gathered her equipment. We need to warn Ambassador Taewon and Commander Junho. It may be too late. If the Zephyr planted weapons in the human section, they can claim Earth violated Council law. It would give them the excuse they need to push through the treaty immediately. For emergency reasons. We need to find those weapons, Hyun said. Before the Zephyr security teams do. They hurried out into the hallway. Other humans were leaving their rooms looking confused and scared. What's happening? Someone asked. Stay in your rooms, Mokhtal ordered. This is a security matter. Hyun pulled out her pad and ran a scan of the human section. The weapon signature is coming from the storage area, she said. This way. They ran down the corridor. Ahead they saw a squad of Zephyr security officers approaching from the other direction. Get back, Mokhtal whispered. He pulled Hyun into a side passage. We can't let them find the weapons first, Hyun said. We won't. They took a service tunnel that Hyun knew about from her late-night explorations of the station. It led them to the back of the storage area. The room was filled with crates and boxes belonging to the human delegation. Hyun's scan led them to a large container near the wall. In there, she said. Mokhtal used his security override to open the container. Inside were dozens of weapons, not human weapons. Zephyr military blasters. They planted their own weapons, Hyun said, to frame us. We need to document this, Mokhtal said. He took images of the weapons with his security device. The marking codes show these came from a Zephyr military base, not something humans could have obtained. They heard the main door to the storage area open. The Zephyr security team had arrived. Hide, Mokhtal whispered. They slipped behind a stack of crates. From their hiding spot, they watched as High Commander Vrex himself entered with the security team. Find the weapons, Vrex ordered. They must be here somewhere. The team began searching the room. It wouldn't be long before they found the container. We need a distraction, Hyun whispered. She looked at her pad, then at the ceiling. There was an environmental control panel above them. Can you send your images to the council head? She asked. Mokhtal. Yes, but do it now. While Mokhtal sent the images, Hyun used her pad to access the station's systems. With a few quick commands, she took control of the storage area's environmental settings. Suddenly, the sprinkler system activated. Water sprayed down from the ceiling, soaking everyone in the room. What is this? Vrex shouted, his forearms raised to shield his eyes. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, Hyun grabbed Mokhtal's arm and pulled him toward a side exit she knew about. They slipped out just as emergency lights came on. The last thing they saw was the Zephyr security team opening the container and finding their own weapons. We need to get to the council chamber, Hyun said as they ran, before the Zephyr can spin this their way. But when they reached the main hallway, they found it blocked by more Zephyr security officers, and these officers were now pointing weapons at them. Security Chief Mokhtal, one of the officers said, you are wanted for questioning about the security breach, and the human is to be detained for suspected involvement in smuggling weapons. Mokhtal stepped in front of Hyun. I am still the head of station security, he said firmly. Your authority does not overrule mine. We have special orders from High Commander Vrex, the officer replied. Please come with us. Hyun knew that if they were taken, the evidence would never reach the council. She leaned close to Mokhtal. The service tunnel to the right, she whispered. On my signal. Before he could reply, Hyun tapped her pad one last time. Throughout the station, every screen suddenly showed the same image. The Zephyr weapons in the container, with their military codes clearly visible, and as a bonus, she added the hidden clause from the treaty. The Zephyr officers stared at the nearest screen in shock. In that moment of distraction, Hyun grabbed Mokhtal's arm. Now! She shouted. They ran for the service tunnel. Behind them, the officers shouted and fired their weapons. Energy bolts hit the wall near Hyun's head, but they made it into the tunnel and sealed the door behind them. The whole station can see the evidence now, Hyun said, breathing hard. But we still need to reach the council head. Mokhtal looked at her with new respect. You are indeed not what you seem, Archivist Hyun. Neither are the Zefnar, she replied grimly. The quiet human that everyone overlooked had just become the most wanted person on the station. The service tunnels ran throughout the station like veins in a body. Most people didn't know they existed. Hyun knew them all. She led Moktal through the narrow passages. The air was warm and stale. Pipes and cables lined the walls. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. "Where are we going?" Moktal asked. "To find Suna," Hyun replied. "She can help us reach the council head." They reached a junction where 5 tunnels met. Hyun checked her pad. "The ILO quarters are this way," she said, pointing to a tunnel on the right. "Wait," Moktal said. "Let me check the security channels." First, he used his wrist device to tap into the station's security network. His face grew serious as he listened. "The Zefnar have locked down the whole station," he said. "They're saying humans tried to attack the council. Ambassador Tae-wan and Commander Jun-ho have been arrested." "What about the weapons evidence I sent? They're claiming it was faked, and—" Moktal paused. "They've declared martial law. The Zefnar security forces are now in charge of the station." Hyun sat on a pipe to think. This was bad. Very bad. The Zefnar were moving faster than she had expected. "They must be desperate," she said. "They wouldn't take such extreme steps unless they were afraid of something." "Afraid of what?" "Us." Hyun stood up. "They fear humans. Not for what we are now, but for what we could become. Think about it. Every other species took thousands of years to develop space travel. Humans did it in a few hundred. We learn and adapt faster than any species in the council." Moktal nodded slowly. "I've noticed that. It's quite impressive. To you, maybe. To the Zefnar, it's a threat." Hyun checked her pad again. "We need to move. They're starting to scan the service tunnels." They continued through the maze of passages. Hyun led the way, making quick decisions at each turn. After 20 minutes, they reached a small hatch. "This leads to the ALO quarters," she said. "It's used for maintenance." She tapped a code into the panel beside the hatch. It slid open with a soft hiss. They emerged into a storage room filled with beautiful silver containers, typical of ALO design. "How do we find Suna without being seen?" Moktal asked. Hyun pulled out her pad. "I'll send her a message. The Zefnar will be monitoring all communications, not this one." Hyun smiled. "Suna and I set up a private channel weeks ago. She was curious about human technology. She sent a brief message. 5 minutes later, the storage room door opened and Suna entered. The ALO's silver skin shimmered with concern. "Hyun, the whole station is looking for you," Suna said. "They're saying humans tried to attack the council." "It's a lie," Hyun said. "The Zefnar planted weapons in the human section. They're trying to force through the treaty." Suna looked at Moktal with surprise. "And you are helping her, security chief?" "I am pursuing the truth," Moktal replied. "The evidence points to Zefnar deception." Hyun quickly explained what they had found. Suna listened, her silver eyes growing wider. "This is worse than I feared," Suna said when Hyun finished. "And now the Zefnar control the station. We need to reach the council head," Hyun said. "Can you help us?" Suna thought for a moment. "The council head is under guard in the central chamber. But there might be a way." She turned to Moktal. "The old emergency protocols, do they still exist?" "Yes," Moktal said. "But they require the authority of a senior council member. Like me." Suna straightened her tall, slender form. "I am the 3rd oldest member of the ALO delegation." "What are these protocols?" Hyun asked. "In case of station takeover, any senior council member can call an emergency session that overrides all other authority," Suna explained. "It was created centuries ago, when pirates tried to seize the first council station." "Will it work against the Zefnar?" Hyun asked. "It should," Moktal said. "The protocols are built into the station's core systems. Not even the Zefnar can override them without destroying the station itself." "Then let's do it," Hyun said. Suna nodded. I'll need to reach a main communication panel. There's one in my quarters. They followed Suna through the ALO section. The elegant corridors were empty. Most ALO had been confined to their rooms by the Zefnar order. In Suna's quarters, she went to a panel on the wall. She placed her hand on it, and the surface glowed with a soft silver light. I, Suna, of the third circle of ALO, invoke Emergency Protocol 793, she said in a clear voice. Council takeover in progress, emergency session required. The panel flashed and a deep tone sounded throughout the station. Emergency protocol activated, the station AI announced. All council members report to the central chamber in 30 minutes. Station security defaults to original council charter. Hyun looked at Moktal. What does that mean? It means the Zefnar no longer control station security, Moktal said with satisfaction. My authority has been restored. He touched his wrist device. Security Chief Moktal to all loyal security officers. Arrest any Zefnar personnel who resist the emergency protocol. Will your officers follow that order? Hyun asked. The Zefnar are powerful. My officers are sworn to the council, not to any one species, Moktal replied. Most will do their duty. Suna looked worried. The Zefnar won't give up easily. They've worked too long for this. No, they won't, Hyun agreed. They'll try something desperate. As if on cue, her pad beeped with an alert. She checked it, and her face went pale. What is it? Moktal asked. Energy readings, Hyun said. The Zefnar have activated some kind of device in the human section. It's building up power. A bomb? Suna gasped. Worse, Hyun said. It's a quantum destabilizer. If it goes off, it will make it look like the humans tried to destroy the station. That would give them the perfect excuse to attack Earth, Moktal said grimly. Hyun was already moving toward the door. I have to stop it. You can't go back there, Suna protested. The Zefnar will capture you. I'm the only one who knows enough about quantum technology to disable it, Hyun said. If that device goes off, millions of humans will die. Moktal put a hand on her shoulder. I'll come with you. Hyun shook her head. No. You need to secure the central chamber for the emergency session, and Suna needs protection. Before they could argue further, Hyun slipped out the door. She knew they were right. Going back to the human section was extremely dangerous. But she had no choice. She made her way through the service tunnels again, moving as fast as she could. Her pad showed the energy readings getting stronger. She didn't have much time. When she reached the access point near the human section, she paused. Zefnar guards were everywhere. She couldn't fight her way through, but she didn't need to fight. She just needed them not to see her. Hyun closed her eyes and remembered her training. Before becoming an archivist, she had learned many skills. One was how to move without being noticed. She slipped out of the tunnel and into the corridor. She kept to the shadows, moving when the guards looked away. Her plain gray uniform helped her blend into the background. No one saw the quiet human. As she made her way to the storage area where her pad showed the device was hidden, the room was guarded by 2 Zefnar. Hyun couldn't get past them unseen. But there was another way in, the maintenance shaft she had used earlier with Moktal. She crawled through the narrow shaft and emerged inside the storage room. In the center stood a metal box with glowing controls. It hummed with dangerous energy. Hyun approached it carefully. The design was complex, meant to be difficult for humans to understand. But Hyun wasn't an ordinary human. She studied the device for a moment, then began to work on the controls. Each move had to be precise. One mistake would trigger the destabilizer immediately. As she worked, she heard voices outside. More Zefnar had arrived. High Commander Vrex wants this area secured, one said. No one enters until the device activates. How long? Another asked. 10 minutes. Then the humans will be blamed for destroying half the station. Hyun worked faster. The quantum equations were tricky, but she found the pattern. 3 minutes later, she had overridden the main controls. But the device had a backup system. As she disabled the primary detonator, A second timer started. 5 minutes. Hyun took a deep breath and opened the device's casing. Inside was a maze of alien technology. She had never seen a Zephyr quantum destabilizer before, but the principles had to be similar to human quantum devices. 4 minutes. She traced the energy flows with her fingers. There, the main power coupling. If she could disconnect it, 3 minutes. The coupling was locked in place with a security measure. Hyun used her pad to analyze it. She needed a code. 2 minutes. Think, she told herself. The Zephyr used mathematical sequences for their security codes. What sequence would they use? 1 minute. She tried a standard Zephyr prime sequence. Access denied. 45 seconds. She tried the coding pattern she had seen in their military files. Access denied. 30 seconds. What else? What would the Zephyr use that they thought humans couldn't figure out? Then it hit her. The Zephyr thought in 4 dimensions because of their 4 eyes. Their most secure codes were based on 4-dimensional math. 15 seconds. Hyun input a 4-dimensional prime sequence. Access granted. 5 seconds. She yanked out the power coupling. The device went dark. The humming stopped. Hyun sat back and took a deep breath. The destabilizer was dead. She had stopped it with only seconds to spare. Now she needed to get to the emergency council session. But first, she had one more task. She connected her pad to the disabled device and downloaded its data. This was the final proof she needed. The device's control codes would lead directly back to the Zephyr military. As she finished, the storage room door slid open. Hyun froze, expecting to see Zephyr guards. Instead, Ambassador Tae-won and Commander Junho entered, followed by several station security officers. Archivist Hyun, Ambassador Tae-won looked surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Saving all our lives," Commander Junho said, pointing to the disabled device. "Those are Zephyr markings. A weapon of some kind? A quantum destabilizer?" Hyun said. "It would have destroyed half the station and made it look like humans did it." "How did you know how to stop it?" Ambassador Tae-won asked. Before Hyun could answer, Mokhtal entered the room. "Because Archivist Hyun is much more than she appears," the security chief said. "Thanks to her, we have proof of the Zephyr plot. My officers have retaken control of the station, and the emergency council session is about to begin." "Ambassador," Tae-won looked at Hyun with new respect. "Then we should go, all of us." The central chamber was packed with representatives from every species. The tension in the air was thick. At the center stood the council head, a tall being with tentacles instead of arms. Behind him stood Suna and several other senior council members. On one side of the room, High Commander Vrex and the Zephyr delegation waited. Their faces showed anger, but also concern. Their plan was falling apart. On the other side, the human delegation took their places. Ambassador Tae-won and Commander Junho walked with confidence. Hyun followed quietly behind them, almost unnoticed as usual. "This emergency session will now begin," the council head announced. "Serious charges have been made against the Zephyr. Dominion. We will hear the evidence." High Commander Vrex stepped forward. "These charges are false. Humans planted weapons in their own section to gain sympathy. They seek to divide the council." Ambassador Tae-won started to speak, but Commander Junho put a hand on his arm. To everyone's surprise, he gestured for Hyun to step forward instead. Hyun walked to the center of the chamber. In her plain gray uniform, she looked out of place among the richly dressed diplomats and officials. Many in the room seemed confused. Who was this small, ordinary human? "My name is Hyun," she began in a clear voice. "For 2 years I have been gathering evidence of Zephyr activities on this station." She connected her pad to the chamber's main display. Images and data appeared on the large screens around the room. "These are Zephyr military ship movements near Earth space. These are communications between High Commander Vrex and Zephyr military leaders. And this..." She brought up the image of the quantum destabilizer. "This is a Zephyr weapon placed in the human section today. Its control codes traced directly to Zephyr military command." Gasps filled the room. High Commander Vrex's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in Zefnar. Lies, he hissed. This human is a spy. She should be arrested. Actually, Moktal said, stepping forward, Archivist Hyun has been working with Council security. Her mission was approved by the previous Council head. This was not true, but Hyun kept her face neutral. Moktal was giving her official cover. The Yaozi evidence is clear, the security chief continued. The Zefnar have violated Council law. They planted weapons. They attempted to frame humans. And they plan to use the protection treaty to take control of Earth and other newer Council members. Hi. Commander Vrex looked around the room. He could see that he was losing support. In a desperate move, he pulled out a small device from his robe. Enough, he shouted. This station is now under Zefnar control. He pressed a button on the device. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Still nothing. Looking for this? Hyun held up a small circuit board. The control link to your backup systems? I removed it an hour ago. How? Vrex looked stunned. Those systems were protected by our highest security. You never watched me, Hyun said simply. No one does. That was your mistake. Vrex lunged at her suddenly, his 4 arms reaching for her throat. Everyone in the chamber cried out in alarm, but Vrex never reached her. Moving with a speed that surprised everyone, Hyun sidestepped his attack. She caught one of his arms and used his own momentum to flip him onto his back. Before he could rise, she pressed a small nerve point on his neck, a Zefnar weakness few humans knew about. Vrex lay still, unable to move but fully conscious. The chamber was completely silent. No one had expected the small archivist to be capable of such action. As I said, Hyun spoke into the silence, no one watches the quiet ones. 3 days later, the council voted to remove the Zefnar from their leadership position. The protection treaty was cancelled. Instead, a new treaty of mutual defense was proposed, one that respected the independence of all council members. In the human section, Ambassador Tae-Wan held a small celebration. The danger had passed, and Earth's position in the council was now stronger than ever. A toast, he said, raising his glass. To Commander Junho, whose military expertise kept our delegation safe. Everyone drank. Commander Junho nodded in acknowledgement. And another toast, the commander said. To someone who taught me that true strength isn't always obvious. He turned to Hyun, who stood quietly near the wall. To Archivist Hyun. All eyes turned to her. For once, everyone in the room was watching the quiet human in the gray uniform. Suna approached her with a smile. Will you return to your work in the archives now? Yes, Hyun said. There's still much to learn. And to watch? Moktal asked with a knowing look. Hyun smiled slightly. Always. Later that night, when the celebration was over, Hyun sat in her simple room. She had received a message from Earth Command. It was brief. Well done. New assignment to follow. She looked at the family photo on her desk. Her parents still thought she was just an archivist. They would never know what she had done here, and that was fine with her. She had never needed recognition. She didn't want to be the hero of the story, because the most dangerous human was always the one everyone overlooked. As she prepared for bed, her pad beeped with a news alert. The council had voted to create a new position, Special Observer. The position would have access to all council records and systems to ensure transparency and prevent future manipulation. The first person appointed to this position was a human named Hyun. She smiled. Her new role would let her watch everything, while still being overlooked by most. It was perfect. In the days that followed, a new saying began to spread among the species of the Galactic Council. Watch not the human who roars, but the one who listens. The Zefnar had learned this lesson too late. They had watched the ambassador with his powerful speeches. They had watched the commander with his military knowledge. They had never watched the quiet archivist who moved through the station like a ghost gathering their secrets. They never saw her coming until it was too late. Because the most dangerous human is always the one everyone overlooks. The end.